Today is week 2 of our series called Deep, talking about how to grow deep in your faith. Last week we talked about that going deep is not just about attending church every week. It's not just about doing good deeds, or not just about knowledge, but it's about doing. It's actually about doing what God has asked us to do. And so that's part of what helps you grow deep in your faith. Today we're talking about how service plays a role in that as well. You guys had a lot of good thoughts when it came to service. And we asked you guys, how can I serve others? You guys said, give to a charity, help others laugh, helping them with something, smile at others, don't exclude them. That is an awesome way of helping others right there. Donate money. Donate blood to the sick. Are you guys allowed to donate blood? No, but someday you will be able to. Do community service. Give money out around the world. That is something you absolutely can do. Visiting someone in the hospital. Donating clothes. Including others in activities. That is, again, just an awesome way of serving. Those are great ideas of how you can serve others. Great job, you guys, on that one. Let me grab this one here. You guys answered the question, what service means. You guys talked about serving others means to help others in your community, putting others before you, to help when someone needs it, to put someone's needs before your own, to help others before I help myself. That is awesome. Service also means being kind, helping them in some way, and make others smile, doing something without being asked. That is great answers there. Those are awesome. The hard one, I think, comes to this one, as well as problems that you see in the community and in the world. People avoiding other people, bullying, hate, greed, hurtful words, abuse, jealousy, cyberbullying. Oh man, you guys have to deal with that. We never dealt with that when we were kids. Poverty, homelessness, racism, world hunger, jealousy. Yeah, those are absolutely huge. Those are really good answers. You know, I think when it comes to service, I think we can all think of creative ways to serve, but sometimes it can get a little scary when we think about issues like these. They just seem so big. Like, which one of us has the answer to bullying or to poverty? Or greed. I mean, that seems overwhelming. And I think when we face issues like that, it can almost feel like, what can I add to that conversation? You know? And we know people that need help. We know people that are excluded, or people that are not part of a group, or people that are poor, people that just need help in some way. But there's something that goes beyond knowing that someone needs help and the idea of actually doing it to help someone. And so the question is, what can I do? And really, serving, usually when we think about serving, we think of the idea of, how can me, help someone else? And we think about how we can bless them, or at least help them accomplish it. But a lot of times, serving actually works the opposite way. That you go to serve someone else, and you end up being the one blessed by it. And so another thing is, a lot of times when we see something that needs done at our service, a lot of times we think about, if we don't help them, that person will miss out. Like, we see someone that needs help, and we're like, we should help them. If we don't help them, then they're going to miss out. But I'm going to kind of change that around for you this morning with the idea that when you see an opportunity to help someone and you don't do that, it's not just them that miss out, it's you. That you actually miss out on something that God wants to do in your life. And I'm so thankful for God's word talks about this. We're going to look at one of Jesus' stories today that's found in the book of Matthew. There are 4 books in the Bible that follow Jesus' life: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are all at the start of the New Testament. The very first book is Matthew. Matthew was one of Jesus' followers, one of his best friends, and he went around and kind of chronologically, I don't know, how do I say this? He was telling Jesus' story, writing down things that happened to him. And we come across an actually pretty funny story in one aspect of it, but I think it gives a glimpse of this idea of how we can grow deep in our faith through service. So to give you some context around this, Jesus had just been helping out all these people, serving them, teaching, healing them, and you can imagine it's got to be exhausting helping people all day long with all these different needs and people wanting to talk to Jesus. And then on top of it, he just got news that his cousin was killed. And so what do you do with that? Well, Jesus needed a break. And Jesus was really good at that, at pulling away from people early in the morning, especially just to get a break and to renew and to be alone with God and to get right and to just kind of get his affairs in order and re-energized by being with his Father. So this time he was like, where can I go? Well, the only way to go, because they were on a shore, was on a boat. So they got in a boat and went to another side, and when they got there, there were a whole bunch of other people that were like, oh my gosh, here comes Jesus. And so everyone wanted a piece of Jesus. So this is where we pick up the story here in the book of Matthew that will magically appear on the screen. All right, here we go. So when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion. You want to remember that word, so we're talking about that. Compassion on them, and he healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go into the villages and buy themselves some food, right? I mean, this is a very practical idea. It's getting late. The disciples are there to kind of take care of Jesus and make sure, hey, it's getting late. Let's have these people go get some food and go out and do this so they can then they can come back and be with you. That way you'll get some time by yourself, but also they can go eat, right? So that's the plan for the disciples. But then check out what Jesus says. Jesus replied, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. And this is what the disciples are like, what? I'm talking 5,000 people. And Jesus is like, hey, they don't need to go anywhere. You guys give them something to eat. You guys just gather your supplies there and give them something to eat. And they're like, LOL, Jesus, right? You're kidding. You're a funny guy. But Jesus was totally serious. Jesus had compassion on them. He's like, you are right. They are hungry. Let's get them something to eat. You're absolutely right. Jesus had compassion on them. If you've ever had that experience when you see someone who is maybe begging for food or money on the street, or maybe they're holding a sign while you're driving with your parents, and you see them holding a cardboard sign, and you feel that desire in you to help them in some way, or you see someone getting picked on, and you're like, man, I should step in there. Those are feelings of compassion. When you see someone that needs something, you're like, man, I need to help that person. And that's what Jesus had. And so Jesus goes, yeah, you're absolutely right. These guys are hungry. Let's give them something to eat. You feed them. And of course the disciples are like, you're funny. You would think that they would have compassion like Jesus said, but instead they answered this way. They said, next slide there, Izzy, or Matthew. It says, we have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answered. So they're like, okay, let's be practical, Jesus. We only have 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. I don't know how you think this is going to happen, right? So then Jesus says this. He says, bring them here to me, he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. So Jesus is going, yeah, I'll take care of it, don't worry. Now the disciples, when they thought about this, they're like, there's no way this can happen. When they saw what needed to happen, they knew there was a need, but they were like, there's no way we can do this. So even though they didn't know what to do, they knew something had to happen. They didn't know what to do. They knew that Jesus did. And they were able to trust Jesus in that, to trust that Jesus knew something more than they did. And so then they did what Jesus said. He fed all those people incredibly. Something happens when you trust Jesus in that. They could trust Jesus. Even though they didn't know what to do, they knew that Jesus understood. And so they were able to trust him with that. And that's pretty incredible that they were able to do that. But I'll tell you what is even more incredible is that we have that same opportunity to trust God in the midst of serving others. He doesn't care if you're too young or too inexperienced or too poor or too insignificant to make a difference. You matter, and what you have matters to him. He can use whatever you have to give to help others. He can use it to do something great, not only for them, but for your faith as well. He wants to use you to help meet the needs of others, and in that process, he wants to deepen your faith as well. So the big idea we want you to leave here today is that God uses service to grow our faith. God uses service to grow our faith. Well, what do you have to give? What's a middle schooler have to give? I think you have three things. The first one is that you have your time. You guys all have time through the day. You may not feel like you have a lot of time, but you all have time to do different things at least through the week, whether that is helping someone with homework, helping tutor someone at school, helping your parents out at home. You also have your talents, the things that you are good at, the abilities that God has given you. So instead of painting because you want to become a famous artist, you decide, you know what, how can I paint things that are going to draw people to God? Instead of practicing 1,000,000 free throws because you're hoping to get a college scholarship someday, you're practicing free throws to go, you know what, if I can really excel at this and people know that I'm a Christian, then maybe they'll want to become a Christian too. Using your talents. And also your gifts. Your gifts, the things that you have, whether that is donating toys or donating clothes to even giving to the church. One of the things my dad instilled in me early on when I was in middle school was the importance of giving 10% to the church and tithing. That's what tithing means, 10%. And so even when I only had $5, I would toss 50 cents into an offering tray. In our church, we would pass these offering trays and everyone would give money. Our church, we don't do that. Instead, we have these boxes. They're right behind Gene back there, over there. It's a giving box. And that's a great way to give. And I'll tell you, I have been giving ever since, and I have never, ever ran out of money. God has taken care of me. And I want to encourage you to try doing that as well. But again, the real heart of it is that God uses our service to deepen our faith. When I was in college, I was serving at a nursing home, and I really loved it because I grew up in California. I was in Missouri. I really missed all my family. And I went to this nursing home. There were all these old ladies and old men, and I kind of got to adopt them as my grandparents. And it was a cool deal. And I remember getting close to these elderly ladies. One of them, her name was Ada, and she was amazing. I totally loved Ada. We would go in there. I'd read her mail. I'd take her to the activities room. I'd read the Bible with her. I'd pray for her. And throughout the 2 years that I served there, something happened that I wasn't expecting, but I should have. And that was these old people started dying. And it was really hard for me, especially with Ada. Because Ada went from me and her being able to talk about when she was a kid, her own children, her grandchildren, to Ada just lying in a bed, unconscious most of the time. So I would come into her room and I'd hold her hand and read her the Bible or just talk to her or pray for her or just sit there. And I remember this one Saturday morning, I was sitting there and Ada made a sound. She's like, meh. And I'm like, what am I? Ada? It's me, Ken Rawson, I'm here. She says again, her eyes are closed. She's like, right. I'm like, she's really trying to say something to me. So I got really up close, so close that her little granny whiskers were like tickling my ear. So I'm listening, and she says two words that she could have asked me anything, and I probably would have done it, but these two words were like, no way. As crystal clear as I could hear, she said, my teeth. Now, for Ada, she wore dentures, and her dentures were in a glass jar on her nightstand. And so what she was asking me to do was to put her teeth into her mouth. Now, me being the Christian that I am, I love Jesus, I love to serve. When I understood what Gene was asking me to do, I was like, you know what, I could just be like, I'm sorry, Gene, I'm sorry, Ada, I don't understand, so I'm going to have to leave now. I actually thought about doing that, right? But then I'm like, man, what? She'd ask me to do anything. Man, I feel like if I don't do this, it's going to be the wrong thing. And so I put my hand in the jar and took out her teeth. I slipped them in her mouth. It was the grossest thing ever to me, right? Because I had never done that before. But you know, when I did that, God did something in my heart. that really changed who I was and really deepened my faith in trusting him, that I could serve and know that while Ada was being blessed by, I guess, having her teeth in for whatever reason, for me, it was a huge deal to be able to trust God in that and to know that even though I did that for her, I was the one really moved by that. So again, the big idea today is that God uses service to grow our faith. We're going to